Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Great Shot Kid, the Nerd Party podcast that explores the inspirational corners of Star Wars as a fiction. And I am one of your hosts, John Mills, and with me as always is
Mike Schindler.
And we welcome everybody here to this discussion. We've gotten some news in the Star Wars galaxy, and we're going to get to that in just a second. But I just wanted to remind everybody that if you want to reach out to the show, you can go to thenerdparty.com/contact, look up Great Shot Kid. Find at Join Nerd Party over on Twitter. Use the hashtag Great Shot Kid. Let us know that you're talking about us. You can find the network over on Instagram at The Nerd Party and on Facebook, facebook.com/The Nerd Party. Again, using the hashtag Great Shot Kid. So those are all the ways that you can reach the show. But I am actually, if you can't tell, very anxious, Mike, to talk about this news because we focus on inspirational and motivational sides of the creators in the Star Wars galaxy. And we're in a new era, and we've had a lot of tumult and shift. But the news broke very recently about Rian Johnson basically being given the reins for this new era of Star Wars. And I want to get your take on it, man. What was your initial reaction?
I was really excited because I like Rian Johnson a whole bunch. You know, I like his work on Breaking Bad and all that good stuff. And it seems to indicate that Episode 8 is very good because, I mean, this is a production company which has sort of made it an annual thing to hire people to make movies and then fire them halfway through making those movies and then hire new people to make movies. And the idea that someone was able to not only finish a movie, but that they were so happy with that finished product that before the movie was released, before you could get the fan reaction to that finished product, they turn to him and say, "You want to make 3 more?" And he's like, "Yes." That's pretty cool.
You know, well, the thing is, I want to get your reaction as well to a whole other aspect of it, because I spoke about this with Matt Rushing. You know, we're over on Aggressive Negotiations and everything, and I was sitting there, you know, talking to him about it. J.J. Abrams, who's the savior of Star Wars, if you will, and brought back in for Episode 9. Oh, gosh, we got to fix things. Bring J.J. Abrams back in. He's not doing a new trilogy. He's not the new voice of Star Wars. So, wow, isn't that, I mean, that's kind of weird, isn't it? Wouldn't you think Abrams would be the guy that they turn to? Or is this some sort of tacit admission on their part that they want somebody with a different skill set?
I really think it's more of a situation of J.J. Abrams, you know, coming in to make this movie, Episode 7, reluctantly because of the commitment, you know, that it would require. And, you know, him making it so that he can say that he's the guy who revived Star Wars or whatever. But, you know, that's it. Just a one-time thing, never again. Because, you know, there's other things to do in this life and then make Star Wars movies. And then them going back to him and saying, "Please, J.J. Abrams, save us." And him saying, "Okay, fine, just because, you know." And then him doing that. But then, you know, at some point, he's got to say, like, enough's enough, guys. You know, I want to make that little movie with Leonardo DiCaprio based on that book. I forget what it's about. It's like, I want to do that,
too.
You know?
Okay, so, all right, fine. I can buy into that. I can get that. But I just recently saw Looper, Rian Johnson's time travel epic. With, I mean, it's not an epic, but his time travel piece with Joseph Gordon-Levitt with questionable makeup and Bruce Willis. And it's a really innovative sort of concept. There are some, you know, problems with execution and stuff like that. But I look at Brick and I look at Looper and I say, I mean, I already know that with The Last Jedi, regardless of my final opinion of it overall, it's going to look great. Like, I love the way Rian Johnson directs things, visually speaking, at the very least. And the thing is, I loved Brick. I was less enthusiastic about Looper. What is it you think that he brings? Like, what is this skill set? Looking, you know, let's say somebody didn't have a positive reaction to this news. What could we say where we would say, no, this is actually a really good development for Star Wars? What in his previous work indicates to us? Now, granted, Last Jedi, could be a whole different thing, but what about his previous work makes you say that this is a good thing, that this is a positive step for the franchise?
If someone came to me and said, I don't know about this, I don't know if this is a good idea, I think what I would say to set their mind at ease would be watch Breaking Bad, I mean,
okay.
It's, Ozymandias, there, boom, right?
Yeah.
And that's something which he only directed, he didn't write it. So there's that side to it. And I have to say, not super impressed with Brick, not super impressed with Looper. I think if anything was wrong with Looper, it was the fact that it was built on a premise that didn't really make any sense, And I understand that time travel is a thing. I understand that you can, rip apart Back to the Future and explain why that doesn't work. But I think the problem with it is that it's blatantly obvious while you're watching it that it doesn't make any sense, you can forgive things and say, well, why don't they just do this? Oh, well, because then you wouldn't have a movie. And it's like, well, then maybe you don't have a movie, Like I liked the story, I liked the character interactions. I liked, sort of like the moral quandaries and all that good stuff. But I think that movie is really plagued by the fact that the premise is not sound. Like the mechanics of the plot do not work at all.
See,
and that's not something. Just to whatever. That is not something that usually bothers me. Like, I'm not the guy sitting there picking apart Back to the Future and saying, like, why is he disappearing? Even though the thing, because it's that's not my thing. But with this, they have a whole sequence at the beginning with Paul Dano where they're like showing how this works, and yet the whole time you're thinking like, but then then how did he? This no, this doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, my problem with the Paul Dano thing is it's somewhat irrelevant. It doesn't add anything to the tension or the forward progress of the story. And my problem with Looper isn't the mechanics of the time travel. Like I don't care about it's time travel and this is how it works. Okay, fine. I'll buy into any way you want to sell it to me because I consider it all a bunch of hogwash. My problem is that the motivation for, and we're getting into spoiler territory here if you haven't seen Looper, so, usual caveats and everything like that. But the motivation of the character who is supposedly going to grow up to become the person to wipe these loopers out, who's working to end the loopers. Great motivation for why, but when they demonstrate, when they go the extra mile to add in this other crazy thing that isn't necessary at all, really, this whole TK thing, like you sit there and you're like, well, no, that doesn't make any sense at all. Why his motivations don't make sense when he gets older. Like it doesn't, that's what breaks about it. It's, for me, it's the mechanics, whatever. It's the motivation of the character doesn't make sense in the context of the story.
I guess that's true too. I think by that point I was just kind of like, wait, what's going on? And I guess I'm okay with sort of taking like a weird, like almost like supernatural turn, like halfway through the movie. Like, okay, that's fine. If we're gonna do this, we're gonna do this. I'd like to see them do that in something like Brick, just for you might as well. But yeah, no. I just, I don't know. I enjoyed the movie. But the whole time I just sat there thinking like, but this doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't. And that's a problem. Yeah. That's definitely a problem. And I don't know. Like I haven't seen his other movie, so I guess I'm putting all of my eggs in the Breaking Bad basket. But it's a pretty stable basket, to put your eggs in. I don't know.
It is, and I do think that given the fact that Abrams and Johnson are the only ones that they've ever let finish a film, I think that in and of itself is what I would say. And I know how dismissive that sounds and everything, but in all honesty, we spend all of this time looking at the works of directors, and we even had this whole thing where we had to compare Ron Howard's approach to comedy to Miller and Lord's approach to comedy, and what we could glean from that, because and now we found out that Ron Howard's basically reshot the whole Han Solo movie, as we suspected he was doing because of how long it took.
Maybe.
But
I don't know. I mean, there's conflicting reports. Like Candy Newton was like 90% of the stuff that I shot was with 90% of the stuff that they're using was shot by Lord and Miller of me. That's what she said.
I would. I'm surprised Disney didn't tamp that one down really fast, because that's not going to help them with their dispute about who gets the director credit. I guess, unless she's only got like 5 minutes in the movies. 90% of my 5 minutes was shot by Miller and Lord.
That could be. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah. Fine,
great. We like, is she in the full, hour and 49 minutes that it's going to be? Who knows?
Yeah.
But I would say to anybody who's having that trepidation, I would simply say that at the very least they've locked into a somewhat singular vision for a creator. And I think that Star Wars, I know there are plenty of people who disagree with me, but I think that Star Wars works best when you have a singular vision. Ahmed Best actually just said that recently, where he was comparing working with George Lucas to the way Disney would work. And he said, love it or hate it, at the very least, you knew that George Lucas was making decisions because they were his artistic decisions, and this was what he was going to do, as opposed to trying to please shareholders or, reach across marketing aisles or anything like that. And I think that committing to one person to be a visionary, as it were, behind the scenes, they'll still have a story group, they'll still have, studio input and stuff like that. But obviously he is able to work well enough within that structure and be George Lucas Jr. that, I'm glad to see them commit to a brain, like a single brain behind it above all else.
Yeah, I mean, he's really kind of like their James Gunn. You look at like Marvel, and you do have situations where, Joss Whedon comes in for Avengers 2, and they throw so many ideas at him that he's basically like, this isn't the movie I was trying to make. And you've got other situations like Edgar Wright, where by all accounts, what he wanted to do was amazing, but it wasn't what Marvel wanted to do, so they bring in a replacement director who knocks it out of the park, Peyton Reed, he's awesome.
Yeah,
but
he did a good job.
While all of this is going on, at the same studio, in the same continuity, you have James Gunn, who's just kind of off to the side, and whatever he's doing, he's working basically by himself, and it completely meshes with what Marvel wants to do. And it's like a perfect sort of union between studio and, artist. And he's able to create what he wants to create because he's creating what they want,
Mm-hmm.
And, when all of this stuff was happening with, all these other directors getting fired and everything, people would ask Rian Johnson, that sort of thing. And his standard response was kind of like, I haven't had any problems. They've let me do exactly what I want to do. This has been, a great experience for me. I would direct another one in a heartbeat, which is why everyone was like, well, then how come he's not doing episode 3? It's like, oh, because he's busy directing a different one in this particular heartbeat. So,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of this stuff is kind of like making sense, but, James Gunn pretty much says the same stuff about Marvel. So I see a lot of parallels there, It's possible that it's just, this is a good fit. What he sees Star Wars being is the same thing that Lucasfilm sees Star Wars being. So, that's cool.
Do you think this puts even more pressure on The Last Jedi? Do you think this makes it so that, because if whoever does not like The Last Jedi, this is their divorce paper for Star Wars. This is the end of the relationship for them.
Yeah,
in a lot of ways, don't you think?
I guess I could see that, and I think that shows Disney's confidence in it. There's also like a weird thing that happens. I don't know if you've ever noticed this, but like whenever a filmmaker or an actor is like about to have a movie come out, like maybe like a week before, there's some sort of big splash about what their next movie is going to be. And it's like, know that that's been planned for a while, but I almost feel like there's some sort of contract negotiation, whatever going on, which is maybe similar to a baseball player who's going to sign that extension before he blows out his knee or something like that, where it's like, I want to get this in so that I'm protected for the future, right? Like if they say that I'm directing a new trilogy now, then if Last Jedi somehow, bombs, or if everyone hates it, it's kind of like too late. You already signed me up. You know what I mean?
It might be too early for speculation, but I got to ask you, where do you think they say we're going to go to places we've never explored before? How do you take that? Like looking at his penchant for his particular brand of creativity, how do you interpret that? How would you interpret where he's going to go?
I have got to think that, especially given all the criticism that Star Wars has faced for, sort of like basing everything on nostalgia and for going backwards instead of going forwards, or when you're going forwards, make sure that you have all these characters from the first one that was made 40 years ago or whatever. I've got to think that whatever he's going to do is going to take place post Episode 9. And maybe it will have characters who are in this trilogy, but I think they will be characters who were created for this trilogy. And maybe just side characters, I don't know. I think it'll be really interesting to see who's added to Last Jedi and see which of those characters could sustain a trilogy. I mean, you got to figure it's got to have Jedi in it, right? Because it's Star Wars, and apparently we're incapable of making a Star Wars movie without a lightsaber. So,
dude, you got Han Solo coming up.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no legitimate reason for a Jedi to be in the Han Solo movie.
Okay.
None.
I agree with you.
None whatsoever.
I agree with you. Let's see if there's one in there.
Like a run-in with Vader.
There's no legitimate reason for a Jedi to be in Rebels. It's got 2 of them.
No, there's a legitimate. Yes, there is. We could argue that too. There's a totally legitimate reason.
Okay, I'm just saying.
Totally makes sense.
For, a universe which is supposed to have, only 2, a master and an apprentice or whatever, there's a whole lot of Jedi in that freaking universe.
Well,
you know what I mean?
There's a
whole lot of people running around there who nobody knew about. You know what I mean?
It's a big galaxy. The Emperor. You know what? They never say this in the films, but there is, in fact, in the novelization at the very least, that the Empire was 1,000 worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, there's bound to be somebody who slipped through the net with Order 66, and Obi-Wan says helped the Empire hunt down and destroy the Jedi Knights, meaning Vader wasn't the only one finding them and killing them. That there were other agents going out there and stuff like that. I mean, come on, man. That's it's like Clone Wars. There's wiggle room. There's always wiggle room with these sorts of things. I mean, I think, Johnson, I hear you with the criticism about they're going back for nostalgia and everything, but I think an even bigger criticism from the fans that might be in my camp is what the hell happened between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, man. Like, seriously, one of the biggest rocks I could hurl at The Force Awakens is the fact that they're like, oh, hey, all that stuff at the end of Return of the Jedi. No, not really. Empire and Rebels are still their thing, doing stuff. And it's like, how did we get back here?
No,
how did that happen?
I definitely see what you're saying, and but I don't think that what Rian Johnson is going to be doing. I don't think he signed up to be a gap filler. He wants to create his own thing. He wants to distance himself from everything so that he can stretch his legs creatively and everything like that. I think what you're talking about is perfect fodder for a standalone movie, which maybe will come out in between his trilogy or whatever.
Or a TV series.
Or a TV series. Hey, we're getting one of those, right?
Yeah, that would so depress me, though, if they didn't just... Because Lucas had 50 scripts sitting there for... set between episode 3 and episode 4. We can just bring those out and just, hey, let's have a good old time with this, man.
Especially with Ron Moore involved, right?
Sure.
What does that mean? Sure. We don't want it to be too good. Better cut out the Ron Moore.
I want it to be first 2 seasons of Battlestar Galactica, not last 2 seasons of Battlestar Galactica. What?
Okay, I'm not going to badmouth any seasons of Battlestar Galactica, but like season 3 and season 4 of Battlestar Galactica are amazing.
No. Okay, season 3 has its upshots, has its moments, such as when they finally got off Mud Planet, and they had that great sequence of the Galactica coming down like the fiery angel, and the ship's all shooting out. It's like, yes, and the bagpipes are going, and that's fantastic. And then we're back on track, and then all of a sudden everything goes wrong again with All Along the Watchtower, and it's just no.
I can't deal with this. I can't deal with
this. Oh, yes,
this.
you can totally deal with this.
When All Along the Watchtower is introduced, that is the single greatest moment in television history. Maybe in world history. Statement. I'm not sure. Because I'm not too familiar with like the 1700s. But yeah.
I will say that my reaction to that All Along the Watchtower moment at the end of season 3 of Battlestar Galactica was like my cousin's legendary reaction to the revelation of Planet Zeist in Highlander 2, where my brother relayed it to me because I saw a different showing where my cousin Rob was sitting there, and my brother said that it was like Planet Zeist, and my cousin Rob goes, "Oh," and then his eye furrows and he goes, "Oh." That was my reaction to All Along the Watchtower. It was just... You took Colonel Ty away from me, man. I would have lived with anything but that.
Let me tell you my reaction to All Along the Watchtower. Okay, here's a dramatic reenactment of me seeing it as it aired live on the Sci-Fi Channel. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Are they doing this for real? Oh my god! No, are you kidding me? You're kidding me! No! Oh my god! 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 But that was Earth, and the thing, and the oh my god! Melissa, what did you see? You don't watch the show? Oh! Who can I call? Max. Oh wait, he's not gonna watch it until tomorrow. Well, I work with him tomorrow. Okay. Oh my god! What just happened? Who can I talk to? When is the next episode air? In over a year? Oh my god. And then it just went like that until the season 4 premiere happened.
See, the thing, we had definitely different reactions.
Okay.
Because my whole reaction to season 4's premiere was, all right, let's do this. Fine. I've made it this far. Let's just get this over with.
We had a party. We had everyone come over to my house, which was known as the Chill. And we watched it on our big video projector. And we just sat there completely amazed by what we were seeing. Because it was
Mine was more like Awake. Mine was more like Awake as I put my memories of those fantastic first 2 seasons permanently to rest. Awake is a kind of party. Don't be judgmental. Come on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think it would be nuts for them not to... I mean, please, they basically mined those ideas and scripts already by bringing Saw Gerrera into Rogue One.
Well,
why not have the TV series set that? Everybody wants to see the Jedi Purge. Everybody's wanted to see the Jedi Purge even more than the Clone Wars. They want to see people going around killing Jedi.
I mean, I guess to me, the thing is, things have changed in the landscape of the universe, since then, right? Like what you're saying makes sense in 2006, but now we're in 2018. Star Wars has been reinvented. Star Wars is a new thing. The prequels, which used to be like, oh, the prequels are somebody's Star Wars, that's true. And now the sequels are somebody's Star Wars. And as a studio, again, who's trying to, sell products and trying to connect with an audience and everything, you're connecting to a younger demographic who the prequels are not there. The prequels are just as old to them as the original trilogy was to the people who were kids when the prequels came out. So, we're moving on to the next thing. And, we're going to take a look at what happened in between, Jedi and Force Awakens, because it's much more relevant to what they're doing today. And it's also a way to connect with our generation who grew up with the original trilogy. And, the prequel trilogy generation is kind of a lost generation, It's sort of something which doesn't really exist anymore, and they're gonna, it'll be 20 years from now when the next great Rian Johnson, who little Rian Johnson Jr., who is right now probably about 15 years old, becomes a hotshot filmmaker and decides to cash in on the nostalgia of, her or his childhood, and makes
that's even trippy to think about, that it's going to be somebody who either saw The Force Awakens or is about to see The Last Jedi, and that's the movie that makes them say, that's what I want to do for a living. So that in 20 years, when I'm soiling myself, no, I shouldn't be that old. I shouldn't be soiling myself by then. At least, well, I mean, I could voluntarily, but not in, God, I'll be in bad shape if it's only 20 years from now. But 20 years from now, when I'm even crankier, maybe balder? Can I be balder?
No.
I don't think I can be balder. No. I'm about as bald as I'm going to get.
Yeah.
Oh, well. But, in about 20 years, there's going to be somebody who said, oh, yeah, I saw The Force Awakens for the first time, and it's a dream come true that I'm directing, I don't know, the reboot of Episode 1.
Yeah. You could lose your
geez.
eyebrows just like Darth Vader. And he soils himself.
Yes.
So there you go.
That does he though? I don't think he
I
does.
think he does. I think he recycles all that stuff.
Well, like a still suit? Yeah, but I mean, okay, look, I know we're dealing with Jedi and Force stuff and fantastical stuff, and he should have died and all of that stuff, but I gotta imagine things are sealed off after burning, cauterized, if you will, so that we probably have a mechanism in place where on the belt, or like if Luke had hit something on the belt, it would have been a much smellier fight on Cloud City than if he'd hit him on the shoulder. So we should be thankful that he hit him on the shoulder.
Could be. Yeah.
Well, I mean, those gears got to do something.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, the thing is, look at all of the production he had to go to take his helmet off, right? And he can't see that well on his helmet. So there are hygiene challenges.
I remember reading something where they were like talking about some book, some sort of, like one of those like in-universe sort of like guides to the whatever. And they were talking about how he basically, exists on like a liquid diet and everything. And some scientist was trying to come in and say like what that would do to him like in terms of his like digestive tract and stuff. And it sounded like it wouldn't be too good. Not too much fun.
I can imagine that if the Force has kept you alive so that you're trapped in a metal hell after being burned to death and cut into pieces by your best friend, you're probably less concerned about your digestive tract than other people would be. I actually postulated at one point that maybe the thing recirculated so that the breathing that you hear is actually that process exhaling. So, like, people standing in front of Vader were in for a very awful time because it was just sort of like, and it was a way to just sort of like keep people at a distance. And, if he walked into the room, that's why he was like, oh, no, don't come in.
I'm sure they could add some like scope to the mixture or something like that, which would allow for some minty fresh breath.
It gives like a little blast of cologne every so like, oh yeah, okay. It's like an aromatherapy thing. You can tell what mood he's in by what. Ooh, I like this idea. That works.
Yeah.
That works. So Rian Johnson, if you want to turn to us for ideas for your new trilogy, obviously we've got them.
Mm-hmm.
But in the meantime, Mike, if Rian Johnson wants to reach out to you for wonderful, fresh ideas, where can he find you?
Well, he can find me on Twitter at Mumbles3K, or he could also find me on my website, commentarytrackstars.com, where I do a show called Commentary Trackstars, and he can find me on Trek.fm, where I do a show called The Edge, and another show called Stage 9 with you.
That's right. We both do Stage 9 over on Trek FM. And you can also find me back here on the network co-hosting Aggressive Negotiations with Matthew Rushing. And you can find me co-hosting a show called Words with Nerds with my pal Craig. And just as a final note before we go, we do know that we got to get back on track with our Splinter of the Mind's Eye read-through. But we promise you we're going to come back next week and we're going to talk about Chapter 5. In the meantime, thanks for joining us on this journey. Please, by all means, reach out to us. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts if you would. And until next time, keep exploring those hyperspace lanes.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.